Hey, what's up everyone and welcome back. Welcome back to episode number 12 of this educational video series. I'm your host Vijay and I'm a CPA. Today we're gonna go over the deduction of startup and organizational costs. These are the costs that you incur before you start operating your business. We're gonna go over what costs are considered startup or organizational costs and how the deduction of these costs differ from the deduction of other business related costs. So check this video out and I'll see you all in a bit. Alright, let's get started everyone. So as I mentioned before, the deduction of the startup and organizational costs differ from the deduction of other business related expenses once your business is up and running. So before we dive into how this deduction differ from the other business expenses once the business is running, let's take a look at what is considered startup costs and what is considered organizational costs. So as per the IRS, the startup costs are costs associated with creating an active trade or business or investigating the creation or acquisition of an active trade or business. So these are costs that you incur when you're trying to determine whether or not you want to go into a particular business or whether you're trying to acquire a particular business. So before you acquire that business and get it up and running, or before you start a new business and get it up and running, you incur some costs, and these are considered the startup costs. Now, organizational costs are costs that you incur if you're trying to form a partnership for your trade or business, or if you're trying to incorporate your trade or business. Then these the costs associated with forming that partnership or incorporating your business is considered organizational costs. And an important thing to keep in mind is that startup costs are basically costs that you incur before you get your business up and running, while the organizational costs are all the costs associated with forming a partnership or incorporating your business before the end of your first tax year. So the important thing to keep in mind is the timeline. All organizational costs incurred within the first tax year should be deducted according to these rules. Now, so let's take a look at what are the qualifying startup costs. So qualifying startup costs is basically cost that you incurred. If you incurred this cost during a regular normal course of your trade or business, then you would be able to deduct it, and it is the cost that you incur before you start your trade or business. So let's some of the examples of this qualifying startup costs include the fees paid to consultants, CPAs, and attorneys to explore the feasibility of your trade or business. If you're trying to advertise your business before you open your doors, then those advertising costs are also considered qualifying startup costs. If you pay someone to do a survey of analysis of potential markets, products, or labor supply, etc., then those costs are also considered qualifying startup costs. And any travel expense that you incur to go and meet your suppliers, potential customers, or distributors, etc., those are also considered qualifying startup costs. Now, let's take a look at qualifying organizational costs. As we mentioned before, organizational costs are costs associated with forming a partnership or incorporating your trade or business within the first tax year. So if you're forming a partnership, then the fees associated with the state filing, any attorneys or a CPA consultation fee that you have to pay for the forming of your partnership, these are considered qualifying organizational costs for a partnership. For a corporation, similarly, it's any state filing fee that you have to pay, or any accounting or attorney fees that you incur associated with forming a corporation. If you have a temporary directors, and if you pay salaries to those directors before your active trade or business begins, then those salaries are also considered part of the organizational costs, and any costs associated with corporate meetings before you actually start your business. So all these costs will be considered organizational costs for a corporation. Now, let's take a look at how do you calculate the deduction. So for a startup and organizational costs, as we mentioned before, this deduction of these costs differ from the deduction of other regular business expenses. So if you, in a normal course of your business, if you incur $10,000 attorney fee, then you would be able to deduct that $10,000 fee in the tax year that you paid or incurred that expense. But when it comes to the startup or organizational costs, only first 5,000 of each of these costs is deducted in the year that you start your business. So $5,000 of your startup costs and $5,000 of organizational costs are deducted. The excess of this cost has to be amortized over a 180-month period, starting with the month that your business opens its doors. So basically, you had to take the excess of this cost over 5,000 is deducted over monthly installment over 180-month period. Now, the $5,000 cost that you get to deduct in the first tax year is reduced by any amount of startup costs or organizational costs that exceed $50,000. So that's a dollar for dollar deduction of any cost that goes over $50,000. Now we'll take a look at a couple examples that will help clarify the deduction a little bit more. So let's take a look at those. Let's say, for example, ABC Inc. incurs $3,000 in startup costs and $2,000 in organizational costs. Now remember, we said you can deduct $5,000 of startup costs and $5,000 of organizational costs in the first tax year you start your business. So in this case, since both of these costs are less than $5,000, ABC Inc. will be able to deduct entire amount of startup costs and entire amount of organizational costs within the first tax year. Now example number 2 is XYZ Inc. incurs $7,500 in startup costs and $9,000 in organizational costs. XYZ Inc. will be able to deduct $5,000 startup costs and $5,000 organizational costs within the first tax year, because remember, that's the limit. The remaining $2,500 in startup costs and $4,000 of organizational costs will be claimed in equal monthly installment over 180-month period, beginning with the month that business opens its doors. Now let's take a look at third example. Say, for example, ABA LLC incurs $53,000 in startup costs and $60,000 in organizational costs. Now, as we mentioned before, a business can deduct $5,000 of startup costs or $5,000 of organizational costs. I'm sorry, $5,000 of startup costs and $5,000 of organizational costs in the business in the year it starts operating the business. But this amount has to be reduced by any any amount that goes over $50,000. So in this case, both of these costs exceed $50,000 threshold. So startup cost deduction of $5,000 will have to be reduced by the amount that goes over $50,000. So in this case, the $5,000 deduction will have to be reduced by $3,000 because that's the amount that went over $50,000 threshold. So ABA LLC will be able to deduct $2,000 of startup costs within the first year of operation and none of the organizational costs on the first tax year, because it went over $50,000, and any amount that goes over $50,000 reduces your $5,000 deduction by dollar for dollar. So the excess of $10,000 basically wipes out the $5,000 deduction that they would have otherwise claimed if the total cost was less than $50,000. So I hope that makes sense, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is on your screen. I'll be more than happy to help you figure out your eligible deduction for these two types of costs or any other help that you may need. Alright, welcome back, everyone. I hope you found this information useful. As I mentioned before in the introduction, I'm a CPA and I own an accounting firm that specializes in working with entrepreneurs with their tax and accounting needs. If there's anything I can help you with, I'll be more than happy to talk to you. And one last thing before I sign off, everyone, if you find this information useful, please like, share, and subscribe to this video and my YouTube channel. It'll be a huge favor to me. Thank you all very much, and I'll see you all next time.